Hello, friends. It's Uncle Larry. Snowy day here in Nashville, and it's the perfect day to make a video about something that you always wanted to but never had the time. So I thought of it. We're always talking about guitars on YouTube and the internet in general. Why doesn't anybody ever talk about old guitar cases? I think that's worth a video, right? So I got the idea in my head a while back, and I thought, I wanted to show you some of these old cases. See, remember earlier today I was playing this 63 Jazz with the hideous body refinish. We were all joking, calling it the cucumber burrs. I call it the t-shirt burrs because it looks like somebody folded a t-shirt, laid it there, and did the refinish. And I said to a guy in the comments, if the bass was in as good a condition as the case, we'd be rocking. It's like, look at the case with this guitar. It's like really clean, nice case. And usually, anybody who buys and sells vintage guitars will tell you, old bass cases are really hard to find in decent condition. They're always hammered, even more than the guitar cases. And especially these cream Tolex ones with the black ends from the early 60s, right? It's very rare to find one of these cases that isn't totally hammered. I've actually got two of them. This is the case that came with the 63 blonde telly over there. This is probably the cleanest cream Tolex case I've ever seen. Look at this thing. It's crazy. It's like perfect, right? But we should talk a little bit about cases today. I'll give you a little chronological history, show you a few things, and you probably already know most of this stuff, but maybe you don't. I think cases are underrated, really, in the whole sort of culture of vintage guitars. It sort of completes the set. Like if you've got a really cool vintage guitar, but you don't have the original case, it's not complete, right? People pay crazy money for these original cases when you can find them. And I always consider it to be a cool thing to have the right case with the guitar. Even though I don't really use these cases, I'll put these in a closet somewhere, and I usually carry the guitars around in a nice gig bag, because I don't want the cases to get hammered. But here, I'll give you a quick tour. I'll start with the earliest Fender case I got. Here we go. So the earliest Fender cases were, the Poodle case, the thermometer case that came with the really early Telecasters, Stratocasters. Those are very rare and very expensive if you need one. By about 54, 55, Fender started using these kind of run-of-the-mill rectangular tweed cases, right? I don't even have a guitar to fit this case, but I just kept it around. It's a typical, 50s Strat case that would go with like a 56 or 57 Stratocaster. But it's a pretty clean one, and I thought, I might need it down the road. Although at the moment I don't have any guitar to match this case. But these were pretty much the earliest, common Fender cases that you'll find. And then right around 1960, they went to the brown Telex case, which would have been from 60 to 62, roughly. Usually when you find these, they're always trashed. This one is the case that came with my 60 Tele Custom. Still got the original strapper in there. But, typical wear, beat up. This is kind of what they usually look like, this or worse when you find them. And then right around 63, Fender went to the cream or blonde case, as you'd call it, with the black ends, which I think are very cool. But usually they're, as I said, totally hammered when you ever find them. And then in 1964, they went to the black case that we remember. The earliest ones from 64 usually don't have a Fender logo on them, like right there. This is a case that came with my 64 Lake Placid Blue Jaguar, I'm sorry. So these were very common. You'll see these all through the 60s, into the 70s. And I think right around 70, 79, I reckon, they went to those weird plastic molded cases, right? Correct me if I'm wrong out there. I remember 78, 79 Strats had those sort of plastic molded cases with the embossed fender thing on them. So that's your basic Fender. Now I'll move on to Gibson. Okay, friends. Now we're going to move to about 1952 with the earliest Les Paul cases. You'll notice these were flat tops, right? There's no arching on the tops of these cases. This is a case that came with the 52 Goldie that I have. And I like these cases. They're really cool. The flat tops I always thought was really nice. Then by the mid-50s, they moved on to the archtop cases. These are the two cases that came with the 58 Burst and the 57 Goldie. I think these are called California cases. That's what they call them, the 5-latch deal. Really cool, slim-waisted sort of case, right? And again, I think if you needed one of these and you didn't have it, you'd be paying handsomely for these. These are very similar, these two. There was lots of cases earlier than this. Like, some of the coolest cases I've ever seen are the 30s Gibson cases that you'll find with like a 36 ES 150. They're like tweed with a purple stripe. They are so cool looking and attractive. And there was also several like Geib cases that came with the Gibson acoustics in the 30s and 40s that looked very similar to the Martin cases of that era. But I'm starting here at about 1952 with this, and then we'll move into some other Gibson cases. Now we'll move into the Gibson SG cases. These are really cool. Most of your 61 SG Les Pauls will have this sort of black pebble exterior case with yellow insides. Very similar to the same kind of Tolex you would see on a mid-50s to late 50s Les Paul Custom. They always say the blue handle. This doesn't, the Les Paul Custom cases have a handle that would eventually turn blue when the paint came off. But this is just a standard 61 SG case. My dear son has a 62 SG that came in a very rare brown case. You don't see old SGs with these cases very often, but they do exist. Pink insides, brown exterior. That's a pretty rare case, but I think those are very cool. All those ones very hammered, as you can see. And then by the early 60s, Gibson was using these cool cases. These were like usually black Tolex with yellow inside. This would be typical for an early 60s 335, although the earliest 335 cases were brown with a pink inside. This case right here is just a stray case that I have that actually doesn't fit a 335. It's for a ES350, and I just sort of had it laying around. If anybody out there needs it, let me know. Then in the 70s, we moved on to your sort of Norland era case. This is a late 70s case that came with my old 79 Les Paul Deluxe, right? Purple insides. Typical 70s kind of vibe right there. Boy, you see a lot of those around. That's probably the most common case, I would say. And here's one of the weirdest ones of all. The case that goes along with the 58 double neck. Imagine how hard it would be to find one of these if you needed it. I've always marveled at how well the guitar fits inside this case, the way the neck is supported. It's pretty cool. It's got this big, little box over there you can put stuff in. You can put your weed in. But yeah, I can't imagine ever seeing one of these cases in the wild. And if you had one without a guitar, it would be worth some money, I would think. And last but not least, here is your typical Gretsch case from the 60s, which Gretsch also had several variations of case. Some were sort of white Tolex. And this is a pretty common, early 60s Gretsch case. Very well-made case. I always thought these were really good, strong cases. I don't know who made these. Might have been Geib or Lifton. I'm not sure. Bubba would know. But there you go. I think that's pretty much all I have to tell you about cases. And it's always if you ever see a cool old case like this, for sale anywhere, without the guitar, it's always a pretty good investment because you can put it on eBay or Reverb and you'll find someone out there who needs it. As long as it doesn't smell like cat piss and mold, which a lot of them do, you'll get some money for it. And they're just cool. Old cases are cool. Old guitars are cool. Rock and roll is cool. Snow is cool. It's so snowy. All right, friends, get out there and do some sledding. Peace out.